Why your home readings and your lab results drift apart. Home readings and lab results can drift apart without either source being fake. The screen examples in this video use the one-year mock data file included with the app by Werner Tools and Werner, so what you see here is a workflow demonstration, not a claim about your own medical record. The app's role is to separate the different questions each number answers: same-day lab glucose, longer-range lab A1C, home average glucose, estimated A1C, and the latest home reading. Once those are put back into context, the drift usually becomes easier to explain. A home reading and a lab result can drift apart for normal reasons. Start with the simplest reason for disagreement. A home reading is a moment you chose to measure, under home conditions, with your own timing. A lab fasting glucose is a clinical draw on a specific date, often under more controlled instructions. The app keeps both types of values visible so you do not force them into being the same kind of number. When people say the readings do not match, they often mean they are comparing a same-day lab snapshot to a home reading taken under different circumstances. Timing around the lab date can widen the gap. Timing is the next big reason for a mismatch. The medication events list and begin and end range selectors help you anchor the lab date inside a real treatment phase instead of comparing it to a home reading from some other part of the year. That matters because a glucose value taken before a medication start, after a diet change, or during a different routine can look inconsistent when the real problem is that the dates do not belong to the same phase. Average glucose and the latest home number can separate. Another common mismatch happens when the latest home glucose reading looks reassuring, but the average glucose and summary section still point higher. The app keeps average glucose, estimated A1C, latest reading, and the lab comparison pieces close together so you can tell whether the home record is broadly running above the single number you are focusing on. That matters because one decent morning value does not erase a higher recent average. Estimated A1C and lab A1C can drift apart too. For the longer glucose story, estimated A1C is helpful, but it is still an estimate built from the home record. The plot shows exactly why doctor and home discussions can feel mismatched. In the sample screen, the estimated A1C and the measured lab A1C are related, but not identical. The app treats that difference as information, not as an error. Use the estimate to see direction between lab dates, and use the measured lab A1C as the benchmark when the two are not the same. Fasting lab glucose is a same-day check, not the whole trend. Fasting lab glucose still matters, but it answers a narrower question than the longer-range trend measures do. It is the best place to compare a same-day home reading against the lab draw. The report and lab results sections make that role clearer. If the home reading and fasting lab glucose are close, that supports the day-level match. If they differ, you can investigate timing, technique, or whether the home reading came from a different part of the day. That is a more disciplined use of the mismatch than turning it into a fight between the lab and the app. The glucose plot shows whether the home record is drifting. The glucose plot is where the mismatch often stops being mysterious. A single home reading can look fine, yet the line around it may be trending upward or staying higher than you realized. The plot, the row analysis, and the data summary work together here. They show whether the home record was stable, drifting, or noisy around the time of the lab. That makes it easier to see why a doctor might focus on the lab result while you keep remembering one good number from home. Review the drift before the doctor visit. This is most useful before a doctor visit, not during it. The report viewer, analysis section, and saved workflow let you build the exact glucose review you want to discuss before the appointment starts. That means you can walk in knowing whether the mismatch is a same-day lab versus home issue, an average versus latest issue, or an estimated A1C versus lab A1C issue. The goal is not to argue with the doctor. The goal is to make the conversation more precise. What this app can prove, and what it cannot. The right conclusion is disciplined. This workflow can show you why a home reading, average glucose, estimated A1C, fasting lab glucose, and lab A1C may not line up perfectly in the same report. It cannot tell you which factor caused the mismatch with certainty, replace clinical judgment, or turn estimates into official lab values. Sparse data, inconsistent home timing, and limited post-meal coverage can all distort the picture. So the best use case is to organize the disagreement and ask better follow-up questions. About the app, privacy, and where to get it. Therapy Impact and Glucose Analyzer is by Werner Tools and Chris Werner. It is a Windows desktop application for personal tracking of blood pressure, glucose, weight, medications, and dated lab results. Privacy is straightforward because the workflow is built around local files on your computer, and the app does not upload your readings, reports, exports, or backups to cloud services. The full app can be obtained on Etsy for $9.95. Use the link shown on screen, etsy.com/listing/451-336-5729, or scan the QR code shown here.